Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today we're back on with the Apricot XEN-S. I've made a little bit of progress, not a lot, but a little bit of progress. Basically, if you remember in the last video, we discovered quite a little bit of battery leakage on it. And basically what I've done, and you've seen many people do it, I used a little bit of white vinegar and a toothbrush. Basically just work around the area, and it did actually fizz up a fair old bit in that area. Anyway, I neutralised it with the white vinegar, and then set to with cotton buds and isopropyl alcohol and cleaned that whole area down. And actually, to be fair, I thought it was pretty horrendous. It's cleaned up really well. There really isn't much damage at all now. I went through all the traces, which looked a little bit concerning, with a continuity, well, with a resistance meter. Basically, my multimeter set on a low resistance range, and they're all fine. Whether one's going to fail in the future or not, you know, who knows? But they don't look really bad actually. And like I said, there's no dodgy resistances on them. They're all quite low. So for now, I'm going to leave that. Now, I still have the problem with it not booting. You cannot boot from a floppy. It's doing exactly like it was doing in the last video. But I did figure out a way to actually get the computer to boot. And that's with the use of a SCSI card. Basically what I've done, this is essentially what I did all them years ago to upgrade that lad's XEN-S that I knew at school. We fitted a, I presume it actually was an Adaptec we used back then. I can't quite remember what make of card it was, but I think it probably was an Adaptec. Which has its own boot ROM. Basically, it doesn't rely on the boot ROM, the BIOS in the computer to actually boot the hard drive. So what I did, that was actually, that's been sat in my 486, just basically as a place stopper, because I didn't know where, I didn't want to put it anywhere else. I just had that SCSI card stuck in my 486. It was handy because I could use it to connect like an external SCSI CD-ROM drive up to the 486 and things like that. But I pulled it, I didn't pull it out straight away. What I did, I found a SCSI hard drive. Now it's a bit big really for what we're doing here. It's actually a 2 GB. But anyway, I dug out that 2 GB SCSI hard drive, connected that. Basically, I pulled the IDE hard drive out of my 486. Well, disabled it in the BIOS. And I've configured the SCSI card to be the boot device, connected it up with this SCSI hard drive, and then used MS-DOS 6.2 to format the SCSI hard drive and install MS-DOS on it. So we've got a 2 GB SCSI hard drive there with MS-DOS 6.2 on it. And well, I'll show you now how far we've got. Let me just switch my monitor on. I'll switch that one off. And if we switch the Apricot on, now it'll still come up as it did before, invalid configuration information, please run setup. But as we can also see, it's also come up with the Adaptec SCSI card. This is the boot ROM for the Adaptec SCSI card coming up. It's found the hard drive, this 2 GB hard drive. It's all basically successfully set up. Now it's come up with the same strike F1 key to continue. Now if you remember last time, when even with a boot disk in the drive, at this point the computer wouldn't go any further, but we hit F1 now. As you can see, starting MS-DOS. And the computer has actually booted up into DOS and DIR. We'll tag MSD. We've got Microsoft Diagnostics up. There we go. So we've got the computer, Apricot, It's showing it's got a Phoenix BIOS there, 80386, memory 640k with. No, that's weird. That's saying it's got an extra 2. That's wrong because this computer's only got 1 megabyte on board. It's saying we've got 3 megabytes of RAM there. I don't know why, because we do only have 1 megabyte of RAM on board. Video, it says VJ, unknown. No network, MS-DOS 6.2. We've not got a mouse connected up. Our disk drives are A and RC, even though we can't get A drive to work. In fact, let's try it. That's interesting. Now we've got into DOS. I wonder what would happen if I tried to load a disk on the A drive. And then obviously we've got a printer port, 2 COM ports. There's no Windows because that's all we've got on this drive basically is MS-DOS and Crystal Caves, because I had it on a floppy disk and I couldn't resist just putting it on there just so when I first got this computer to actually boot up I could play a game on it. Right, let's get out of this. So F3 quit. And let's just for interest, let's just see if we can load a. No, see, it's because I come up not reading drive A. Abort, retry, fail. And that is, I believe, a 720k. Yeah, that's a 720k disc. Let's just see if we can format it. Now this is just me playing around a little bit at the moment. Alright, let's go to C, colon, and then what I need is going to drive. See, not ready. Now, I actually think there's a fault on this board. I know that we've still got problems with the fact that the BIOS isn't set up, but I don't actually think that is the main issue here. I've got a sneaking suspicion that there's something actually wrong with the onboard disk controller on this main board. But we can just format and then we can shut out of that. I'll just power that down. Now, I really wanted to prove that. I was hoping what I could do is basically put a ISA-IO card in with a floppy disk controller on it, and then see if I could get the floppy drive to work that way, and that would prove my point whether the onboard floppy drive controller on the main board's not working properly. So this is what I suspect. Unfortunately, I probably spent about 6 hours yesterday going through my attic. If anyone's seen my attic, you know that's no mean feat. It's basically just one wall of boxes at the moment. Trying to find my box of old ISA cards. From back when I used to do PCs back in the 90s, I had a box like that just full of old random, you know, PCI graphics cards, ISA video cards, IO cards, disk controller cards, generally all sorts, going back to the XT era, sorry, up to, you know, early Pentium stuff. I cannot find it anywhere. I've got this horrible feeling it may have got, you know, thrown in a sort out some time ago. I'm really miffed because there were some cards back, you know, but back then there was nothing, you know, they were out of date, they were obsolete, but now would be incredibly interesting. And I had one of the very early video capture cards, massive ISA, like full length card, like 3 cards thick, huge thing with its own sample RAM on and everything. I can't find that. Like I said, I had loads of stuff like that from back in the 90s, which unfortunately I can't find. I know I had a box of 80 megabyte SCSI hard drives. I can't find that anywhere either. I've got a horrible feeling that's just disappeared over the years. I've actually just bid on just a standard 16-bit serial parallel disk IO card on eBay, and just got outbid at the last second. It seems that all PC parts have started to go ridiculously high in value for what they used to go for. So yeah, I'm a little bit stuck on the disk controller at the moment. What I do want to try now, basically, I had a look online, and I've got a couple of different versions of the Phoenix BIOS setup program on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hard drive we've got here, I'm going to connect it up to my bridge PC. Then I can transfer these Phoenix BIOS setup programs onto this hard drive. We might stick some other stuff. It'd be a nice, easy, quick way to get some games onto the hard drive, so we can have a bit of a play about with this thing. Perhaps not in this video because it's still in a bit of a naked form, but when we get the computer together a bit more, it'd be nice to already have some stuff on that hard drive to play about with it on. So what I think I'm going to do now is, like I said, I'm going to basically set up the bridge PC with this SCSI hard drive connected to it, so we can actually transfer some files off USB stick and what I've already got on the bridge PC's hard drive onto here. Then we'll get this set back up and we can fire it back up with the Apricot, and we can actually try some of them BIOS setup programs, and possibly it is a disk mismatch or something like that, but we can actually see that in the BIOS. Make sure it's set for a 1.44 meg floppy on, you know, as the A drive. And if it still won't work, then I'm pretty certain it is the floppy drive controller on the board that's gone. And I'm just going to have to see if I can find an ISA floppy drive controller. I could possibly try and pinch the one out of my Zenith 286, but I'd rather not do that. One, it's buried in the attic. Two, it's incredibly heavy. And three, I don't really want to mess about with that computer because it's quite an interesting PC in its own right, and it's very, very, very original and very, very complete. Anyway, like I said, I'll just pause the video now and we'll get set up on the bridge PC, and we'll come back when I'm set up like that, and we can have a look at transferring these files onto this SCSI hard drive, and then we can see if we can get them to run on the Apricot. So back in a sec. Okay, we're back, and I've got the bridge PC open here. I've had to disable the floppy drive to provide power to the SCSI, because I've only got a very short SCSI cable, and my only spare power was on this side and it wouldn't reach. So basically the computer will beep up an error, obviously, because it can't work its floppy drive. But it should still work. I mean, we don't need the floppy drives for what we're doing anyway, so we've got the SCSI drive hooked up to the SCSI card that I have in this computer. If anyone's not seen this computer before, or not heard me talk about it, this is my bridge PC. I built this a couple of years ago now. It used to be an old CCTV control computer I got off someone, and it's great that it's got quite an old, I mean, it's based on a Pentium 4 era Celeron CPU. It's got like quarter of a gig of RAM or 128 meg of RAM or something like that in it. It runs Windows XP. It's really nice that the BIOS actually supports 2 floppy drives, which most of the newer BIOSes, even they support one. They only support one 1.44 meg floppy drive. This supports 2 floppy drives, and then it's anything from a 360k up to a 2.88 meg. So I've got a 1.2 meg and a 1.44 meg in the system. And I basically use this for making discs for other computers. I have lots of software on here for creating discs for like CPM systems, the old Amstrad CPC 6128 discs, same for the Spectrum. Lots of good stuff can be made on this computer, and it's just a handy computer to have around. Anyway, we'll fire it up. Get you over onto the screen so you can see what we're doing on the screen a bit more. I'll zoom you in a bit. Right, there we go. Right, obviously it's come up with a floppy disks fail, so we'll just hit F1. We can get past that. Will take a little time to boot up because it's got the work with the SCSI as well. Right, here we go. Windows XP. Quite a few reasons why I run XP on here rather than Windows 7. There's a few pieces of software that I have on here don't run stably under Windows 7. They were actually designed in the XP era, and they really only work properly under XP. And this computer doesn't go on the internet, you know. This computer is just used, like I say, it's called a bridge PC. It's designed for taking stuff from a USB stick that you've downloaded off the internet, put it in the front of it, and be able to produce other media to use on older computers. Right, now let's see if it's recognised that hard drive. We're going to my computer, and there we go. That's local disk C, which is the ID hard drive in the computer, and then we've got MS-DOS-D. We have 2 gigabytes, and this is the hard drive that we had before that we was booting the Apricot up with. And literally all it's got on it now at the moment is MS-DOS 6.2, in a folder called Games. Oh, it's got I put Prince of Persia on as well. It's just got Crystal Caves and Prince of Persia on it. Now what I do want to do, because I've got this USB stick here, we'll put that in the front of the bridge PC. That should come up. There we go. And on here we've got a directory called Phoenix. Now we open that, we've got Phoenix BIOS set up, and then we've got basically three different setup programs that can use with the Phoenix BIOS. So hopefully we've got something in there which will allow us to get into the BIOS on the Apricot. So we'll take that. In fact, we'll copy everything there. I wish I had a slightly better mouse on this. I'm using a old ball mouse here. I think it really needs a bit of a clean. Let's copy that. And we'll go over onto this 2 gig drive. We'll make a new folder. Call it BIOS. Go in there and we'll paste in them programs. Right, excellent. So obviously when we put this hard drive back into the Apricot, hopefully we'll see what we can do with those and see if we can get rid of that any of them errors. Obviously, unfortunately nothing will save at the moment because I still haven't sorted out a new backup battery. I'm still not 100% sure which way I'm going to go with that yet. While we're in here, we'll go down to my DOS folder. We've got this is where I've got basically disk images for DOS 3, DOS 5, DOS 4. But I also have a directory in here called DOS Games. Now a lot of these won't really run on this computer. Doom, Duke 2 should, Duke 1 should. That might work. You can always stick that one over. Yeah, we'll put that on. Yeah, let's Games. We'll put Duke Nukem 1 over. That should run nicely on this. Lemmings should run nicely on this, obviously. That'll run on an XT. I don't think there's really anything else there that's going to... Oh, Duke Nukem 2, that should run okay on this. But what I was going to do, I've got this big folder here called Old DOS. And this is basically... Let's see how big this folder is actually. We might as well just drop the whole folder on. Yeah, it's only 300 odd megabytes, so we can. Let's stick that entire folder onto that hard drive. Now that's pretty much got every DOS game that I could get hold of from 1982 up to about 1989 on it. So we should have plenty of things to play. I think they're all zips, so we'll probably have to mess about with them later on, but nice just having them over there on this hard drive. This might take some time actually, just thinking about it. Oh no, it's not doing too badly. We've got 67, about a minute remaining. There's 300 megabytes of data being transferred onto that hard drive. Yes, you will have to sit it out as long as I do, because I'm not going to fast forward through it or anything. But what we'll do, we'll let this finish now, and then we'll basically what I'll do is I'll put this hard drive back into the Apricot. We'll boot it back up and we'll see what we can do with those BIOS setup programs. See if they will actually allow us to get in there and change anything. And we might even have a look at Crystal Caves or one of the other games on there. See how well it runs. 10 seconds remaining. Okay, there we go. So we've got quite a nice bit of stuff on that hard drive to be going on with. I'll get this computer shut down, because I will have to pinch the obviously the VGA connection and the keyboard back off this to run on the Apricot. I'll turn that off. So what I'll do is I'll pause here, we'll get set back up on the Apricot, and we'll see how far we get. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're all basically set back up. So I've got the hard drive connected back up to the Apricot, connected back up to the Adaptec SCSI card. So we'll power up. Just let it go through all its tests and everything again. Press F1. No, they should have let, yeah, again we're now booting MS-DOS off the SCSI hard drive. We go, bring our directories up. We now have the directory we created there, BIOS. So let's go into that. Oh, damn dyslexia. There we go. There we go. I think let's just type dir first. We've got a few different, let's try good old fashioned setup first. But we've also got AT setup and G setup. Let's try setup first though. Right, well, you can obviously see what's happening here. I don't know if you can see that on the screen because this is terrible colours. But basically we've got errors have been found during the power on self test on your computer. The errors were clock chip lost power, seamless checksum invalid. Well, yeah, we know there's no battery on it anymore. It said setup will now attempt to correct these errors, though auto configuration, hit any key to continue. Right, interesting. Right, it's telling us here that it's currently set up as disk A as a 5 1/4 inch 360K. That could possibly be the reason why it's not booting. Although we did try a 5 1/4 inch drive. Let's see if we can change that. Let's find out. There we go. 1.2, 2.4. There we go. Right, I just accidentally pressed escape. Now, time of day clock stopped. Please run setup program. Hard disk controller failure. Now that's talking about the internal hard drive controller on the board. So that that setup program does actually seem to work. Strike the F1 key to continue. Let's just try that. I actually had a... Why is it not trying to boot off the SCSI hard drive now? I'll take that. There was actually a floppy disk in the drive. Let's take that out. Right, we're having problems now, which I think we can fix very simply by... You see, what I think's happened is it basically the configurations got confused there. Fortunately, because there's no backup battery, I'm hoping if I just switch everything off, it'll have forgotten that it's changed stuff and it'll come back on. Let's see. No. Now this is a problem. It's now trying to boot off it. I wonder if we can try and disable the onboard hard drive controller, because it's now seeing that drive as D, not C, so it's trying to boot off the internal hard drive, which isn't there. Now I wonder if I turn the controller off on the board, whether that'll solve that problem. Or in fact, can we now try and boot off a floppy, a known good floppy boot disk? Let's see what we've got. This is getting fun. Alright, of course, where has my... There we go. I've got a 622 boot disk here that I know works because it's what I installed that hard drive there on. So if I put that in the drive, we'll hit F1. Oh, no, still no joy. Let's try. What I think I'm going to have to do is switch it off, leave it off for a while, and hope that them settings disappear in the BIOS. We will try and disable the onboard hard drive though, see if that will fix the problem. It is switch number 4. So if I take out the ISA cards, in fact I'm going to take out the entire... I should really put my anti-static on for this, being that I'm fiddling about with the main board. Right, now if I take out the riser here, I'm actually going to take the entire riser card assembly out in one. The simple fact that that adaptive cartridge is a pain in the whatnot to get in there. And we're just going to disable the onboard hard drive controller using the jumpers on the jumper actually on the main board. I said 5, didn't I? So, and we'll see if that makes a difference. Hopefully that will allow it to boot back as C. Right, let's get this back. There we go. That's back in there. Let's try again. Now it's all down to now whether we see it, try and boot up with C or D when it sees the SCSI drive. D again. Right, so we've got issues here. Yeah, it's now not allowing me to boot fun. Yeah, it's now not allowing me to boot from the SCSI hard drive because it's trying to boot from the onboard RL hard drive. We may have to see if we can get that hard drive to work again, and basically use that to get the computer to boot. That should actually hopefully contain the setup, if it hasn't already been formatted before this thing was put away. That should have the setup programs we need on it. Yeah, this has not quite ended as I was initially planning. I was hoping that, like I said, we'd be able to get that hard drive to work. As you can see, we did have it booting the computer, but once it's actually the setup program ran and it seems to have realised that it should have an internal hard drive, it's now wanting all the time to try and boot from that. We still don't have a working floppy drive, which does kind of confirm, I'm pretty certain actually, that there is a fault with the hard drive controller. Because we'd set that to 1.44 meg in the BIOS. Like I say, it's doing everything it was doing before, including basically not being able to boot from a floppy disk. See, diskette read failure, it's doing exactly what it was doing before. Yeah, no boot device available. This is what it was doing last time, so I have a feeling that's something to do with the floppy controller on board. I'll switch that off. I'm going to wind this video up for now. At least we made a little bit of progress. At least you've seen the computer actually did boot, albeit using this SCSI method. What I need to figure out now is how to go back a step, how to clear them CMOS settings, them configurations which are actually stuck in the BIOS now, so I can get it to boot again off the SCSI hard drive, and then we're going to have a look, see if what happened with that setup program. Basically, what happened when it went off, I accidentally hit escape. I don't know whether I quit out of the BIOS and it just reset and it hadn't saved it. Like I say, I'm not 100% sure what happened there. That software it's like a generic piece of software for old Phoenix BIOSes. It does say that there is no guarantee it's going to work with your BIOS, but it did seem to work on that. It found the errors, it allowed us to actually select things, so it did look very, very promising. So like I say, in the next video I will see if I can do some research, see if I can figure out how I can get that BIOS to clear so we can actually boot from that SCSI card again. And we'll carry on with this, and like I said, we'll see if we can get a little bit further on the project. What I really, really, really could do with finding though is an ISA-IO card with a disk controller on it. So I can disable the onboard floppy disk controller and just try one in the ISA card and see if that actually is the issue with the floppy drive. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this little update on this project Apricot. It's certainly turning into a bit of a fun one. Anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching and goodbye.